entrepreneurship isn't like a status thing. I don't think it's like an end goal thing that anybody should aspire to have or become. I think entrepreneurship is like a journey, just the same way that life is a journey. It's like entrepreneurship is like a professional kind of, journey to self discovery about who you really are. And I think it's confined to like startups or like individuals that, don't work in corporate, work in corporate jobs. I think it's like entrepreneurship is just part of life. And it's like everybody is an entrepreneur. It's just at what scale do how far on the scale do you want to go with that? Do you want to be Jeff Bezos? Or do you want to be like, somebody who's excellent at their job and people revere and respect?
Welcome to A Founder's Life. I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. On this show, we dive into the real stories behind the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and how we pursue a more balanced and meaningful life along the way. This podcast is sponsored by Thanks, helping founders like us scale with reliable remote talent. Email founders@thanks.com, that's THANKZ.com, with the subject line A Founder's Life, and you'll receive preferred pricing. Now, I'm excited today to be joined by Aaron Edwards. Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi everyone. Aaron Edwards, founder and CEO of the Charles Group, a digital agency based in New York City. Fellow Mancunian, should I say. Moved to London, in 2006 or 7, and then moved to New York in 2011. So had quite the journey from good old Manchester.
Yes, and for those who aren't British, they probably never heard of the term Mancunian.
Yeah, this is true.
So do you want to talk a little bit about your journey that brought you on your entrepreneurial journey to where you are today, and then a little more about the current company and what you do for your clients?
Yeah, so we got started. Actually, I'm going to rewind and go back to the very beginnings of the entrepreneurial journey, because I think I'm not sure if entrepreneurship is something that you're necessarily 100% born with. I think there's an environmental element to it, because my parents were, first generation. Well, I wouldn't even say first generation. They were Caribbean and they moved over to the UK. And, they came here with very little and a little bit older. My mum was 17 or 18. And so she had to kind of really, embrace British culture, which was slightly different from obviously living out in the islands and stuff. Worked 3 or 4 jobs at a time to send us to good schools. And, I think the work ethic that they had kind of permeated through to myself and sister. And obviously my dad, who was kind of like a wheeler dealer, never really knew what he did. He had a taxi company, he had a mechanical engineering business, he had an insurance bit. He was always doing something. So I think we as kind of kids picked up on that. And I think that was definitely a catalyst for kind of doing our own thing. Like 15, 16, I had this idea to start a jazz club in Manchester. And a ton of bricks, obviously, as you can imagine, because you're not even old enough to drink. But anyway, went to Manchester Business Consortium with a business plan and a whole thing. And then lo and behold, 2 years later, a jazz club opens up that's not mine. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what, probably should have gone ahead and done it and not listened to the people. So I always had this dream of doing my own thing. I got a job in finance. The goal was to make money and then eventually be able to part ways. Financial credit crisis hit and I left my job and just decided, you know what, it's time to move to New York. I'd always been to New York back and forth because my sister lived here. And basically, that's what started the whole kind of entrepreneurial journey of starting my own agency. I think at first, going to be a talent agency that was going to, I loved the show with Ari Gold, and I thought, I want to be in that business, entertainment. I spoke to a talent agent. He was like, don't do it. It's the worst business in the world. And it'll take you 20 years to make any money. And then ended up looking into the advertising creative businesses, mainly because my sister had a graphic design business on the side. So I took a look at her books and was like, think we could scale this. She was like, don't think you can. You don't have any experience. And skipped 6 months. I built a business plan, bought myself an iMac, and I used to sit in the lobby of the Roxy Hotel, trying to pitch people on website design, creative services. Skip to now, I think, 14 years later, we're a global digital agency with over 50 employees and, a successful business that's enabled me to live a very comfortable lifestyle here in New York.
Congratulations. And why the Charles Group?
The name the Charles is actually named after our great grandfather, Charles Alfred Seeley. He was a boatwright in the West Indies and obviously helped bring out my family over from the West Indies to the UK. So when we were thinking about names, it was like, well, like it's a family name. It's my middle name. All the men on the mother's side of the family carry the name Charles. And so it's like, why don't we call it the Charles Group? Sounds kind of like regal. It's a family-based business. It's my middle name. And so that's basically what it became. Yeah.
I like it. And what's a typical client look like for you?
Definitely different to how it was when we first started, that's for sure. We started off as kind of a design branding agency working with artists, like designers, fashion people. And then within a year and a half of starting the business, we landed Bloomberg and became kind of like the go-to agency for a lot of Bloomberg Media.com's rebrand. So our clients tend to be in that more like Fortune 100, Fortune 500 space. They tend to have significant budgets. And the reason behind, obviously, why we chose those clients or why those clients choose us is because we have a kind of unique aesthetic. We have a different approach to kind of marketing in the way that we think about outcomes and business goals versus just the cool idea. And I think that's a very compelling proposition for most companies in today's economic cycle.
Nice. And talk to us a bit about what family looks like for you.
Yeah, so I have two kids, a daughter and a son, Isabel and Alex. They're 10 and 5, both New Yorkers, which is kind of funny when you think about it. And I'm married. Obviously, I've got my wife, who I met in London, who is actually from Wales. She's not from the US. And so every year I go back to see my Welsh clan, which is about 150 million people, who all congregate to my wife's house for like 3 or 4 days. Yeah, and then on my side, obviously, it's my mom, my dad, my sister, and obviously we're bringing the family back. So every year we've started to do this family gathering where we bring everyone together. I think there was 35 of us this year. To come and hang out and reconnect and catch up and get to know each other a bit better.
So are you teaching your American kids some Welsh?
Yeah, well, my wife definitely is. I don't speak that much Welsh, but she actually does, which is interesting. And it's the weirdest language because hearing people speak Welsh is like not a common thing.
And how's health look for you? Whether that be sleep, nutrition, fitness, how's that look?
Yeah, so I actually, I should become a brand ambassador for this company called Hume. I've been telling everybody that. Yeah, so Hume is like a DEXA scan scale that allows you to kind of keep abreast of like your water retention, like lean mass, your kind of body fat percentage, your glucose levels. I don't know how it does that. But anyway, so I'm becoming very obsessed with the whole data, biohacking, body fitness piece. I'd say I don't exercise anywhere near as much as I should, but I did recently get started because that's going to hopefully help continue to help me with fitness. But yeah, health is definitely becoming a big priority for me, especially as I'm getting to the big 40 next year. So my 40s is going to be my decade of fitness is the plan.
Perfect. My late 40s, moving into my 50s is definitely my fitness, and it's going strong. And what do you like to do for fun?
So I love cars, obsessed with motorsport and racing. And prior to having kids, I was actually a SCCA racer. So I raced spec Miatas for 2-3 seasons. And then obviously I had kids and that had to stop. But I'm an avid track day enthusiast and just obsessed with all things automotive.
And you get, not really things you can get the kids into too much yet, is it?
Funny enough, I took my son go-karting for the first time. He's 5. And he wasn't tall enough for the junior karts, but he was tall enough for the like 1 to 3-year-old kind of remote control go-kart thing. And he went on it and immediately was hooked. And now, yes, he hopefully will share in the same passion. Go fast.
Fun. So for you, how does a balanced life look? What's that sort of thread that keeps it balanced?
Yeah, I think a balanced life is thinking more about I call it work-life integration. right? Everyone's like, oh, it's a work-life balance. Like, I've got to do this. It's like, well, yeah, but how does that work? Because you're going to be like all in on doing things for yourself personally, and then your work slips, right? Or you're going to be all about work, and then you're going to, so there is no balancing on that scale. I think if you're like able to integrate and not think about it as a scale and think about it more as an integration, I think you become way happier when you with all facets of it, right? So what does that mean? For me, it's like, okay, I like being outdoors. I like fresh air. I like getting sunlight. Can I make 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week of my time walking on the West Side Highway? Can I create an environment where my employees, we give you flexibility. If you want to go pick your kids up from school, it's no big deal. You want to attend your kids' play, no problem. Log on later. So, creating that environment where work isn't just this thing that you have to attend and you have to be at every single day, but more thinking about it as in like, how is work interacting with my personal life and how do I manage the two in a way that's positive for my mental health? I think that's the way that I'd like to think about that balance piece.
Makes complete sense. And I think it's, that balance is not a permanent imbalance. And what has been a pivotal moment in your life?
Many, I think definitely becoming a dad is one massive change. I think that actually being a parent and being a business owner actually is very good. Prior to having kids, I would have said absolutely not. But I do think having children gives you the ability to take a step back. It kind of humbles you in a way because you go from being this person and being perceived as this person and having this own ego around who you are and what you've done to, I have to clean nappies and, look after this other human being and show them something that's much bigger than the ego that I'm betraying right now to myself or to whoever. So I think you become a little bit more ego-less being a parent because it's less about you and yourself and more about them. And then I think there's like the whole empathy thing. You get to really become, I think, more empathetic to certain people's situations, whether that's other parents or other things in life. So I'd say being a parent definitely has shaped my entire leadership style, management style, and overall view on people and business and relationships.
It definitely does. Being a parent is a unique experience and it definitely shapes life. And it certainly should. And what's one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
I've said a few things in the past which may be a bit taboo, but I think, everyone says the whole cliche thing like, don't give up, be resilient, be forthright in your ideas. I think entrepreneurship isn't like a status thing. I don't think it's like an end goal thing that anybody should aspire to have or become. I think entrepreneurship is like a journey, just the same way that life is a journey. It's like entrepreneurship is like a professional kind of, journey to self-discovery about who you really are and what. I think it's confined to like startups or like individuals that, don't work in corporate, work in corporate jobs. I think it's like entrepreneurship is just part of life. And it's like everybody is an entrepreneur in some sense. It's just at what scale do you, how far on the scale do you want to go with that? Do you want to be Jeff Bezos or do you want to be like, somebody who's excellent at their job and people revere and respect, I don't think I don't think entrepreneurship as a thing, as an object is like as linear as people make it out to be. And I think that it's important that everybody has an entrepreneurial mindset, regardless of where you're at in your career or in your journey as a professional.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing your opinions and joining us today. And how can people find you?
You can follow me on LinkedIn and see Edwards. I also have a website. Actually, our website, the Charles Group, so that's thecharlesgrp.com or thecharlesnyc.com, is a great place for information. We recently launched a new media channel called Chatbox, so highly recommend you go check that out. We're doing quite a few different episodes and fun things on there.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Leo.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and please leave a review.